Hello fellow survivors, and welcome to possibly the last video about the game Prologue that has been in development for some time now. This video is unfortunately the bearer of bad news if you haven't already heard about it, because this is the end of Prologue, at least for now. Standing here in front of the starting cabin that you get no matter where you spawn in many of the 2 billion maps that you can, because this is the end of the game. It is now out of early access, but not for the same reason you'd think, because the development has been discontinued. This game is effectively, as of now, dead as far as development is concerned, even though the game is still available. There's a few things to say about this, which I'll just get into in this brief video. I might make a longer video later outlining the more, surrounding details about it and an analysis of the game itself. But for now, just give you the gist of it. Basically, the game is no longer in development as of mostly cuts in the studio and focus on other projects. So because of that, we are here in the starting cabin and we're going to turn off this loud generator in the back for the last time. And turning this off is symbolic, basically turning off the game. But hey, at least we get some nice scenery of it. Now, Prologue is a game that has been in development for a little over a year, longer. It's been released for over a year. So texture seems to have bugged a little bit here, but usually the weather is quite beautiful in this game and the scenery and everything. So what this game is, if for some reason you're watching this video and you never heard of this game, this is sort of the child of Brendan Green, who is more known as the creator of PUBG, which is a massive phenomenon. And I think maybe he hoped to use his impact from PUBG to achieve the same thing with this game, but he wasn't able to. Some of this has to do with impact on social media, like for example, Brendan has over 500,000, I think he's got 500,000 followers on Twitter, but because Twitter is almost dead, he gets almost no traction when posting about this game. Now this game here has come a long way. It's basically a open world survival game, which is procedurally generated, and there are almost 2.5 billion possible worlds you can make, are randomly generated every time. You always start in one corner of the map, and you have to make it to the other corner of the map to find the weather tower. And in fact, you can make custom maps as well. You can import drawings, you can import river terrain, or you can draw them, which I did here, marking the end of this journey. Now, Prologue, when it came out, was initially marketed, sorry about that, I always forget that H is not holster, was marketed as being the hardest survival game to be made. That the creator of PUBG is now making the hardest survival game ever made. And he said in an interview to me, I actually interviewed the creator twice, and I have 2 videos on this channel where he talks about this game, if you want to watch those. And he kind of embraced that. Oh, I wasn't really planning on making the hardest survival game, but now I am. But over time, it became more and more user-friendly. So you have, for example, this help menu that gives you all the explanations. You can have things like a tutorial. There's a tutorial now, and there's also there's these helpful interact like prompts, all sorts of things. But the game also expanded quite a lot. Has some interesting mechanics. I can't go over them all now. All of it now. I have a walkthrough or introduction of all the mechanics already on this channel, and I might make another one because this is basically the end of the game. But you have some interesting things like this. You can turn on, if the radio generator is on, you can cook, and you can just put food in here and cook things. There's interesting mechanics, like if you take this bottle of water, which is now in my inventory, and I drink it, if I put this out in the open when it's raining, it will refill, that sort of thing. You have heat and cold mechanics. You have hunger and thirst. There's no sleeping really. There's no actual looting in terms of like opening like stashes. Instead, everything is interactive like this, which is cool. It's an interesting game. It's really well put together and procedurally generated, meaning that there's a lot of options there. There's also different biomes. I have kind of like a foresty biome here, I guess you could say. And you can explore here. It's the kind of snow covered on it, and there's a lot of detail here. I mean, this world is procedurally generated. The snow is slowly melting as well. It's a little bit buggy right now because I use the dev console to force the game to go from a storm into clear sky. So the game hasn't like fully adjusted yet, but it's a pretty massive world. So it's like, I think it's 8 by 8 kilometers or 64 square kilometers, procedurally generated, along with all sorts of algorithms to make it actually feasible, and it's not just random stuff like a cliff inside your cabin and that sort of thing. You have all these arts, what's it called, like the items in the game. They are all handcrafted, but the way they are placed is procedurally generated. So it's a really well designed game from a technological point of view. But unfortunately, this game is now dead. There are no more developments of this game. The studio has announced that they're stopping the development completely. Oh, a storm is coming. How fitting. And it's just because of things like cutbacks, and it doesn't seem financially viable anymore. And that's, of course, something going on in the economy generally these days. There's a lot of cutbacks all over the place, and they just don't feel like it's viable. So they made the very difficult decision to just stop developing this game. However, then they are continuing their core project. So this is a whole story, but basically what this studio, PlayerUnknown Productions, what they're basically trying to achieve is kind of making a 3D internet in like a 10-year plan. And Prologue was the first game they made for this, where they basically wanted to utilize their machine learning algorithm to create procedurally generated worlds. But the gem is something called Preface, or Preface, depending on how you say it, which is a planet rendering engine that can basically create what Prologue's doing, but on a planetary scale. And that engine they are still working on, but at the moment it can only create planets, if that makes sense. It can't make games. Now this game is actually an Unreal 5. So one of the reasons I think this game never really took off is because this game is really a tech demo. It really is there to showcase and evaluate the machine learning algorithm that generate the procedurally generated worlds. And there's a lot of impressive components here. There are so many worlds to make. There's weather, even changes with rain and snow and all sorts of things. There's interesting survival mechanics, but other than that, the game itself is sort of barren of content. It's really just a procedurally generated world that you can then live in. There's not much drive in it unless you decide to get to the weather tower, which is like the soft story. And unfortunately, the game has now died. They're not saying they will never return to it, but they are halting development for now, for the foreseeable future. They are going to continue building Melba, their own engine, the planet rendering engine, and they might make more games. Ooh, storm is coming. But for now it's just this. This is the game as it is. It's forced out of early access because they're not going to develop it anymore. Now, one of the consequences of this is that they have made the game free. And if you have paid for this game, I just want to underline that you can get your money back as long as you do it before August 17th, because that's when this refund period ends. If you request your money back, you will get it if you do it within the next 60 days, basically. Now, I actually have, the developers were very generous with content creators, and they actually gave me 50 Steam keys to give away to my community. And they only ended up giving about 30 of them away. So I'm sitting on 20 Steam keys with this game, but they are now, worthless because the game is free anyway. But I will say that one thing I thought was very impressive with this game was the involvement of community. That the developers were very good at including the community, listening to the feedback, changing the game depending on what they suggested and what they experienced, what bugs they found, and so on. So that's something to be commended. But then I always wondered how this game would look in 2 years. Like, it's got so much potential because the technology is so strong. It just needs an identity to be fleshed out. But unfortunately, it never got there. And now that the game is dead, we never will get there. So there's a lot more to say about what this game is, about what it tries to achieve, and why it ultimately fails as a survival game and never really reached the peak that it could have. I think that with more development, it could be a fantastic game. But unfortunately, it looks like we are never going to get there. And as this storm flies in upon us, we gaze really upon the world of Prologue one last time. And yeah, this is the state that the game is going to be in. If you try it now, this is the end state. It is open-ended and unencrypted, so it is possible to mod the game and independently develop it further. But I wouldn't hold my breath for that. Maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. And I am curious to see what else the studio is going to do, because their own engine, Melba, is really the future of the development. And this is more like a tech demo to see how they could pull off procedurally generated worlds. But I think I talked long enough. It is a shame that this game has met the end that it has. It is now technically in version 1.0, the final build, which adds things like paths and that sort of stuff, and a few new items to the game. But at the end of the day, this is Prologue as far as it gets. Maybe one day they will return to this game. Maybe one day we'll know why Lucy needs to get to the weather tower. Maybe all the ideas that the developers had for this will come to fruition. Or maybe they'll start all over again and try and utilize their own game engine, Melba, to create a new game. We really don't know. I wish I had more to say, but for now, this game is just over. If you did buy it, make sure you can get your money back. But you can also just not do that if you want to just give it money to the studio, I guess. And if you do enjoy this game, then of course hop in, play it. It is still fun to play, but it will no longer be developed and is dead in the water. And that's a shame. I was one of the pathfinders for this game. That is to say, I was a playtester. So I had access to the dev build, which is the one I'm playing now. And at the top you can see it says cheat menu and stats menu. So that's something that I could utilize to, say, fly around and get aerial shots and that sort of thing. So for example, if I now click home, I can go up here, I can put on cheats, I can put on flying, and then I can, let's see, I can get rid of this menu, I can fly around. And you can get some cool cinematic shots. There are ways to standardize these games, so you can utilize them for research purposes as well. So there's a lot of things. And now with the final release of this game out of early access on Steam, the dev build that I'm playing on is publicly available as well. You can just choose it in the beta function. So if you want to play that, you can. It's basically the exact same game as the full release, except that you have access to the dev console. That's basically the only real difference, to be honest. So yeah, that is it basically. That is Prologue. That's the end of this game. It's no longer in development, and it's going to just stagnate more or less how it is. Maybe one day we will return. We'll see where this game goes. But for now, this is the end of Prologue. And that's all it really was. A prologue for greater things that were never accomplished. With that, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time, survivors. Bye bye.